John Hunter was in here earlier, and a lot of people were asking him what the next step, and if it was invaluable for him to go back to trucks and work his way back up. In your opinion, because you've been an owner, so you evaluate talent, what does he need to get that next step to be a full-time Cup driver?
I kind of knew where you were going. This isn't to be mean or rude or a bad word, but he needs $6 million and he'll be in a JGR Cup car next year. That's all he needs.
Does he have all the,
It's not a success game anymore. It's a money game. So if he can find the cash, then there will be a seat for him, I'm pretty sure.
You feel you're going to have to do the same thing with Brexton?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be racing the stuff that he's racing right now as much as he's racing right now if it wasn't for, the Serve Pro sponsorship that we have on Brexton. So there's no question that you have to have funding behind you, because these owners anymore, there's not enough money in the sport that they're making money that they're willing to reinvest it into their talent pool, into their driver pool, and put it out there. So I think Rick is probably the only one with Larson. Everybody else is all sponsorship driven, and fortunately for me, I've got some great sponsors this year behind me with RCR, and our program's been building, and we've been continuing to expand forward on the sponsorship side, so that's good.
Alex Zetlow, Charlotte Observer. Going back to your comments about barriers getting into a Cup car, what does NASCAR racing lose when those barriers are so high?
Meaning like bringing money to race?
Money, perhaps missing out on talent.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's where I was going to go. So, there's a lot of great, talented race car drivers out there that have never made it and will never make it. I mean, it's just fact. That's when I've raced super late models across the country. I've raced against guys that are very, very talented and well capable of being able to make it up to the big time, but they never get there. They never have the right funding behind them or whatever it might be. So, names off the top of my head is like a Scotty Hance out of Indiana, a Mike Rowe out of Maine, Bubba Pollard down here in the South. Fortunately, Josh Berry is now made it per se. So it's guys like that I got a chance to go race against and have some fun with, and race against the best of the best across the country. But sometimes when you're here in Cup or Xfinity or whatever, the talent isn't quite as grand as maybe it could be if you had all of those types of guys here. It would be a lot tougher, but that's opinion, so who knows?
Well, do you think that's a bad thing, or do you think, it's kind of, the difference would be marginal, like negligible? Or do you think it is not good that the best racers in the world are in NASCAR?
Well, I felt like you could have a A driver with a B team, and you could make something of that, and now you can, because all the cars are so equal, we go out there and your qualifying is going to be separated by 4 or 5 tenths of a second. I mean, it's so close, and we're all running out there in the race, running the same lap times. You can't pass, so it's not necessarily a talent division. You had to have car disparity and you had to have driver disparity, and now you don't really have both of those. So I feel like when you have both of those, that allows you to have more separation in the field.
Thanks, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle. Amy Henderson, Jacobs Media. When you go to the track with Brexton and race, how much of you do you see in his driving style, and what do you maybe wish he'd do different from you when you were coming up through the ranks?
Yeah, every driver's different, right? I mean, it doesn't look like it from the outside, but every driver's very different. So he's definitely, if I had to say what's his weakness, he's a little tentative at times. But he's also been aggressive at times and has gotten himself where he might spin somebody out or spin himself out or something, and then he gets sent to the back. So he doesn't want to get sent to the back. So he'd rather, not make a pass and ride in that position than have to go back all the way to the tail of the field. So he's actually a lot smarter than I might give him credit for a lot of times. So he really does do a good job of calculation and thinking through things. But if I could just try to push him a little bit harder, that's to be a little bit more aggressive. But other than that, when he listens, he does a great job. Earlier this year at Millbridge, I think it was race number 2 or 3, he didn't try very hard. So, the word effort and try, we're working on the definitions of what that means. And so he didn't do a good job, and he got his iPad taken away for 2 weeks. And then he went back out the next week, and he asked me, he goes, "Can I have my iPad back?" And I said, "You could go earn it back tonight." And he goes out there and he wins the race. So he gets his iPad back. So I'm like, okay, if you try, you can do it. So you got to go out there and do it. It's kind of frustrating when you go to the track and he doesn't run to his potential. That's when I get upset. But, he's also still 8 years old. So we got time.